college football weekend recap. Or what games do I need to be most aware of? As I remind you that portions of the program brought to you by the UPS store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services locally owned and operated by Tennessee fans. Right down below, there's the link, the UPS store Hardin Valley. What's your big takeaway from the college football weekend, Caleb?
All right, so recap of the college football weekend. We'll start with the SEC since we just recapped the SEC, so I'll just kind of knock this out. But Brian Kelly replaces Billy Napier on the hot seat, I think, after LSU loses to Florida. I think you have legitimately seen a shift between the two schools because Florida's stuck with Billy Napier, and I think LSU – I don't know if they're stuck with Brian Kelly because of that contract, but that LSU loss, there should be some panic in Baton Rouge about the state of the
they're
program.
Stuck with Brian Kelly, at least for one more year. Because of the buyout. You could always say that, you could find a booster at a big time school like LSU or Tennessee and take care of a buyout. Can you really? Because you got $20 million, $24 million or so that's going to start coming out of the kitty next year because you have to pay players. So listen, I'm aware that Brian Kelly has lost a bad USC team, destroyed Alabama, destroyed by Alabama, destroyed by A&M, lost to Florida. I'm aware of all that stuff. Never led Ole Miss until the final play of the game. Might have lost to South Carolina if Lenore Sellers didn't get hurt. But the bottom line is it's a $60.8 million buyout. $60.8 million buyout. Listen, when it was $80 million for Jimbo Fisher, that bought him 2 more years at Texas A&M, and A&M has more money than LSU. So
yes.
You can't sit in there in a business meeting and argue that it's fiscally responsible to fire him. You cannot.
No, that's true. That's a very good point. You're right. They're stuck.
You'd be stroking a check for $60 million and then another $24 million that you didn't have planned in the budget for this year.
That's a good point. So you're right. They are stuck with him. No, what you're saying is right. So that's the first lead. The second lead is Georgia returning to form with their win over Tennessee. LSU losing reduces a little bit of the chaos in the SEC because they at least have 3 losses now, so they're out. The same with Missouri because both of those teams could have very well finished 10-2, 6-2 in the conference, and that would have created chaos. But the chaos isn't done because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that have 2 losses or better. The 2 one-loss teams in the league, Texas and Texas A&M, have to play each other. So you're guaranteed to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 teams with at least 2 losses and no more than 1 with 1 loss. And of those 5, if all chalk holds, Dave, you're going to have 5 teams at 6-2 jockeying to go to Atlanta for the SEC title game. And you're right, you may not want to jockey to go to Atlanta for the SEC title game, which could cause another loss. But then they're jockeying to get into the college football playoff. This is a total disaster, Dave, with the SEC and how they set this up. And I've called them out. I said it was stupid to go divisionless. It was stupid to set everything up the way they did and devalue the SEC title game. And they got a mess on their hands because of it.
I thought of an answer to your question of devaluing the SEC title game.
What is it?
The loser of the SEC title game should be ruled out of the playoffs.
But then people would purposely lose to not go to the SEC title?
Yeah, but then you're taking the destiny out of your hands.
Yeah. See, I take Josh.
You got to give me this. It's no worse than what's going on right now. That the
it's not.
Championship game is meaningless.
It's a total joke. Josh Pate actually brought this up to us on our show when he was on before the Alabama game, and I think he's right. We have 1 more year of this playoff system. That's what Blake Topmeyer told us last year too. I think the SEC and the Big Ten are going to work a system in where their championship game will be part of the playoff.
Can you do me a favor? Can you jot down, because I got a pen that won't work. Can you jot down tomorrow? I want to do what you would change about the college football playoff. Because I got a couple of different ideas. So that's a topic for tomorrow. Rest of the recap from college football.
All right. So moving on to the other teams. Let's go to the Big 12. BYU loses to Kansas. They should have lost to Utah. They have effectively killed any chance of 2 Big 12 teams in the college football playoff because it's BYU and Colorado playing for the Big 12 title. The winner is going, the loser is not. By the way, though, if BYU beats Colorado, you don't think Deion's going to try to jockey for a 3-loss Colorado to get into the college football playoff? Of course he will, but I don't think the committee will fall for it. So the winner goes, the loser doesn't. It's
Did
that
you
simple.
see how hard he is forcing Travis Hunter to win the Heisman?
Oh, yes. He's working
I mean,
overtime
he
to get
plays almost every play on offense. And they had him try to throw the ball at one point for a touchdown pass. I don't know if you caught that. A lot was going on over the weekend, and he struck the Heisman pose after. I go back to Deion Sanders when he was at Dallas, and he was so frustrated they didn't play him more on offense. So he's totally letting his past experiences affect his coaching with Travis Hunter. I mean, at some point, that's too many snaps in a football game to play 80 or.
Oh, I agree. And Dave, here's the crazy part. What's going to happen if Colorado beats BYU? They get into the playoff and they have a chance at maybe pulling out a win, but Travis Hunter's hurt.
Or just damn tired.
Yeah, that could happen. I agree. Now you could say maybe it's smart for Deion Sanders. If he's committed to Colorado, it's good for recruiting purposes, because isn't it more important to say you got a Heisman winner and you got to the college football playoff your first year and then you can recruit and get more talent? That's really where his mindset.
What's more likely, that he does that? Okay, let's say that Deion makes the college football playoff and Travis Hunter wins the Heisman. What's more likely, that he stays and reaps the benefits there at Colorado, or he's the head coach at Florida or for the Dallas Cowboys next year?
Dallas. It's Dallas.
I'm telling you, that's not outside the realm of possibility. The guy that you need to listen to in the NFL that's tied in is Rex Ryan. He comes across as a dope a lot of times, but when he says something, kind of like I do at times, he's giving you something on inside information. And he's reported that he thinks Deion lands at Dallas because he would bring pride back to Dallas. Anyway, that's a big mess. But nevertheless, let's get back to the college football playoff, where things are never orchestrated or messed up by rich men. Huh?
Never. Right. So, again, this is why I hate divisionless conference title games, because it's hard to pick the top team. The ACC race has now gotten very interesting with Clemson beating Pitt over the weekend. By the way, did you see Pitt allow Clemson, Cade Klubnik, the quarterback, to run 50 yards for a touchdown with seconds left?
I did. Cade Clubfoot looked pretty good. All right.
So here's why that's interesting. Clemson's SMU, Dave. SMU is undefeated in ACC play. They're favored to finish perfect. Clemson has a loss and Miami has a loss. None of those teams play each other. Who goes? Who goes to play SMU? Who goes to dethrone the king of SMU? The king that is SMU.
I don't know. Miami, I think, is a slightly better football team, but where would either of those teams rank in the SEC? We just did the power rankings.
6th or 7th. Clemson might 6th or 7th. 6th or 7th. And the thing is, it's big for the ACC, because the ACC is only getting one team into the playoff, and it's whoever wins the title. So the ACC title game matters, Dave, and so does the Big 12 title. But they have these tiebreakers for these 1 and 2 loss teams because they don't all play each other, but they have no divisions. This is why the whole scenario is stupid. But I ranted against that from the start. I keep ranting against it. So, I mean, you thought 3-way ties back in the day were going to cause chaos, and that happened, once every blue moon? One time. This is going to be a thing every year. So, moving on, I want to point out Notre Dame staying alive. But I'm just going to point this out. They're staying alive because they won over the weekend against Virginia and looked good, and they have that quality win over Texas A&M. But Dave, their schedule strength is actually much lower than people think. It's outside of the top 80. And so I get people wanting to call out Indiana and Penn State, and I'm about to, but I don't know how you can call them out and not call out Notre Dame too.
Okay. Who's next? Caleb Calhoun?
All right, moving on to some Big Ten ball. Oregon survived their biggest test of the year. People are going to say they look weak by struggling to beat Wisconsin on the road. I say, and I think you say, Dave, that's a tough environment, and in a week in, a week out game, you go win that game, you deserve all the credit in the world as a number one team, because that's when you can slip up, and they held on and firm and they won. Big Ten race is down to 4 or 3 teams. It's all but certain that Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon are in. The only question is if Indiana will be the 4th team in. And so the whole number of Big Ten teams going comes down to Indiana versus Ohio State.
All right. I got something for you in our college football recap for the weekend. You tell me when you got your last one.
All right. I got a couple more, and then break it down. Group of 5 race is down to Boise State. Army still undefeated, but Tulane's creeping in too, Dave. And Tulane, if they win the American, they have a very strong case at 2 losses to be the best team. My Heisman race is Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Dylan Gabriel. My top 10, and this is my very hot takey top 10, Dave, but Oregon, is number 1. Ohio State's number 2. Texas is number 3. Georgia's number 4. Indiana's number 5. Penn State's number 6. Alabama's number 7. Tennessee's number 8. Ole Miss number 9. I got BYU at number 10. BYU's got a tougher strength of schedule than Notre Dame. So sorry, BYU's ahead of Notre Dame in my top 10.
That's hot.
All right, where do you think Tennessee would fall in the old BCS formula?
In the old BCS formula, I'm pretty sure if you factor in quality wins and how they did schedule strength in polls, I think Tennessee would probably be right at number 8.
Okay. Well, I've got that for you. Number 1, no doubt, Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 would be Texas. Number 3 would be BYU. And I'm a formula guy. I think it takes the subjectivity out of it. So this is what I would do if I were the king of college football. Now, you wouldn't be able to do a college football playoff committee ranking show, which is what they're doing because they can sell that to advertisers. Number 4, Miami. And then you would have number 5, Ohio State, that would be theoretically hosting Boise State in a college football playoff. Then you'd have Penn State at number 6 hosting Georgia. And then you would have number 7, Indiana, hosting Alabama. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, there's no way in hell they're going to do that because that game would be at Tuscaloosa, right?
Yes, exactly.
And they would just manipulate it.
They would manipulate it. There's no way they're going to have Alabama go to Indiana to play a football game.
And then Tennessee would be number 8 hosting Notre Dame still after the weekend.
That's not implausible, by the way. That'd be a heck of a game.
Tennessee, according to the old BCS, would come in.
By the way, this formula changed multiple times, though.
Yes, but this is the latest one, the last one that was used.
Okay, so the 8, the coaches, the Harris, and the computers.
Yes, Tennessee would be number 6 in that poll. It'd be Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, Tennessee, BYU, Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia. I'll still argue with you. You can talk about strength of schedule, and we can talk about resume, but Tennessee is hands down one of the top 8 teams in the country. And I don't think it's a stretch to go top 6 as the old BCS formula would have them.
The question is, it's not about being a top 8 team. It's about being it's a top 7 at large team. Are they a top 7 at large team? Which I think you're probably right, because if in the top 8 are going to be the Big Ten and SEC champions. So
no, you're right. But does that surprise you that Tennessee would be 6 in the old BCS formula?
No, it doesn't. Look, there's a schedule strength factor here that Tennessee's is somewhat underrated. And so I could actually see how that plays out. Look, guys, the crazy part is we got 2 weeks left. There's a lot of football left to be played. So we're parsing all this out, and things could work out, but they could not work out. And one of the things, here's what's going to annoy me, Dave. You know what's really going to annoy me? Super much. Say there's a series of upsets where things just work out, so it's very clear who deserves to play for the conference title games and who's the top 12. It's just no debate. You know what's going to happen then, right? The CFP committee is going to come in, and Greg Sankey's going to come and be like, see, all you had to do was wait for it to play itself out, and it was going to be fine. And so an example of that is in 98, you remember upset Saturday, right? When Tennessee beat Mississippi State, but earlier that day, Kansas State and Miami were lost, and UCLA were lost, right? When they were both undefeated. Roy Kramer went into the booth with Bob Greasy and Keith Jackson, who were calling the SEC title game, and he said, everybody was just too impatient. I told you, if you guys just waited, it was going to work itself out. As if that couldn't have gone the other way, and as if the BCS was never going to have controversy in the future when he said that. Of course it was.